It's great to see such a large turnout, so thank you all very much for coming. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers for this press conference, starting with His Excellency Akbar, Group CEO of Qatar Airways, as well as the President for this annual general meeting. We have Mr. Robin Hayes, the CEO of JetBlue Airways, who just completed 2 terms as IATA Board of Governors Chairman. We have Mr. Mehmet Nani, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Board and Managing Director of Pegasus Airlines, and our incoming Chairman. And then we have Willie Walsh, the Director General of IATA. We'll conduct this press conference under normal rules, so please raise your hand, identify yourself. If you have a question, please stand up. And if we can limit it to 1 question per person to start with, and then if we have some extra time, we can go back for a second round, but there's lots of people here, so we'd like to get to as many as possible. I'm going to start with a few brief remarks from Willie Walsh before we open it up for questions.
Thank you, Tony, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I just have one additional update for you, which you may not have heard, and that is at the Board of Governors meeting yesterday. We normally also agree and elect a chair-elect position. In other words, the person who will take over as the chair of IATA after Mehmet concludes his term. I'm pleased to say that the board elected Yvonne Makolo, the Chief Executive Officer who I'm there, as the board elect. Obviously, that means that Yvonne will be the first female chair of IATA in our history. So I think another positive step in our efforts to promote gender diversity, not just within IATA, but within the industry as well. Thank you.
Okay. And just before we start, a quick reminder that we're here for an industry press conference, so no questions on individual airlines or individual business issues. So, who wants to ask the first question? We'll take one over there.
Hi. Good morning, it's Laura Westbrook from the South China Morning Post. I have a question about Hong Kong with Walsh. How crucial is it for Hong Kong to reopen its borders? Is there a cutoff point that if it doesn't, what the risk is for it as an aviation hub? And what's your advice to the Hong Kong or Beijing governments in order to reopen the borders? Thank you.
Thank you. Hong Kong is a world-class, or was a world-class hub airport with a world-class hub airline. It clearly has suffered significant reductions as a result of the restrictions that have existed. And what we're seeing now is other hub airports in the region are reopening strongly, with traffic returning well ahead of what we had expected. I think it's very important for Hong Kong, and obviously for Cathay Pacific, for the airport to reopen without restrictions so that it can regain its position as a global hub airport. And I think the longer Hong Kong operates with significant restrictions, the more damage, structural damage, will be done to the hub. Clearly it will recover, but for every day that passes, I think other hub airports are taking advantage of the opportunities that are presented to them. And as airlines rebuild their network, there is a risk, obviously, that Hong Kong will not be on the agenda for many airlines as there are opportunities in the region. So we're all optimistic in the industry and hopeful that Hong Kong and Cathay Pacific will be able to regain their position as a global hub airport and a global air carrier.
Okay. Thank you. We'll take the question at the back of the room. Mike is just coming to you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Jacob from the Norwegian Business Day. I have a question for Willie Walsh. Adding to all the disruptions in Europe nowadays, we have continuous strikes. Brussels airport is closed today. We have one strike going on in Norway, maybe 2 more coming in the coming days. Is there anything we can do in politics or in labor politics to make sure the strikes will not affect that much, at least in the peak season?
I think it's important that we put the disruption that you have covered, and you know, it is important that clearly when there is disruption, people understand that their flights may suffer some disruption. But if I look at Europe, the disruption that we've seen so far is isolated and limited to a number of regions, and it's always difficult in our industry because you know, we've had disruption before. We've had disruption before this pandemic, so I don't want to take it out of context. But when I look around at how Europe is recovering, and how other parts of the world are recovering, I see an aviation sector that is generally in good shape. I've taken 57 flights, I think, so far this year. I've not experienced any disruption, with one exception, and that was at Paris Charles de Gaulle, and it has nothing to do with the airport or the airlines. It was the failure of the passport control computer system, which delayed people going through passport control. So, you know, we recognize that some airports are struggling to regain their capacity as the demand has increased significantly faster than most people. Some airlines are struggling because I think they were hoping to be able to recover staffing levels quicker than they've been able to do. But there isn't widespread disruption across the network. The disruption is isolated. It's not every day of the week. It's not every week of the year. But where we have experienced disruption is to say we are seeing efforts to address it and to reduce the impact that it is having on our customers. And I know every airline you know, hates to see their customers disrupted, and I can assure you, talking to CEOs, they all want to ensure that they're able to deliver on the schedules that they have offered, and where they're clear that there will be a disconnect between what they wanted to offer and their manpower or the manpower at the airport, they are adjusting their schedule. So I'm confident that these issues will be addressed, and clearly we would prefer not to see industrial action disrupting the operations of airports and putting our customers' travel plans at risk.
Okay, thank you. I think the question in the middle.
Actually, I have a question that is a follow-on, and I'd like to have the perspective of each of you. But there are serious labor shortages across the US, across Europe. People that worked in the aviation industry before the pandemic seem to have moved on to something else. Does it require a strategy rethink that maybe the summer that you are expecting to be of a boost this year will not end up to be so successful, and that you, on the long term, have to review your strategy? Thank you.
Okay, allow me, and maybe Malcolm would like to comment specifically about the US. You know, the situation that the airline industry is facing is not unique to the airline industry. This is a challenge that's been faced by every industry. I think what makes it different for us is that many of the jobs in our business cannot be operated remotely, or certainly can't be operated remotely at this point. So airlines have not been able to offer the same flexibility to their workforce as other companies, where flexible working practices have been introduced through the pandemic and now beyond. You know, pilots have to be present to operate the aircraft, cabin crew have to be present. We have to have people loading bags, we have to have people who are there to assist passengers. So it's probably an additional challenge, but you know, these labour issues are being faced by every industry. I know from talking to business leaders outside of the airline industry that they're experiencing some challenges as well. I think we will adjust, like everybody, we will adjust. We will, I think, look for new solutions to these problems. And I see these as temporary, if you like, business as usual challenges that we're facing. And to be honest, these challenges are insignificant relative to the challenges that we faced over the past 2 years. So, you know, as we sit here today, we're looking at an industry that is recovering and recovering strongly. We're looking at an outlook that is positive. You know, we're looking at initiatives that will ensure that the industry returns quickly to profitability. And I think that's a great story for our industry. The resilience that we have shown, the ability to recover as well as we've done. And these challenges are challenges that our industry has had to deal with before, and I know that we'll deal with again. Robin?
No, I agree with all of that. One of the issues in the US that I think many of you have been aware of is some of the challenges around pilot hiring, and there's sort of a view that over the next few years there will not be enough pilots to meet the needs of all of the major airlines. I think the good news is this is something that we identified a few years ago, and there are a lot of efforts underway to improve the pilot hiring supply. And I'm confident that, as Willie said, that over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll get back to a new normal. There's outside the pilots, people are coming back to the industry. We are definitely seeing that. I think there was a lot of uncertainty around the stop-start nature of the recovery to begin with. I mean, in the US, it was only a couple of weeks ago they removed the testing requirements. So it's been a long, slow recovery in terms of some of these government restrictions. But as they lifted, people are looking at it. They're getting more confident that the aviation industry will continue to thrive, and I think that's encouraging them to come back into the profession. We know it's an amazing career with so many incredible opportunities.
As far as we are concerned, we don't see any labor shortage in our company, in our region. I think I don't see it. I of course cannot talk to you about other airlines, but I know that as far as other airlines is concerned, we actually are inundated with applications wanting to join the airline. Just to give you an example, we are in need of around 900 additional pilots because of our growth plan. We had 20,000 applications. In one city, we went to recruit cabin crew. We had 25,000 people that came to the open day. So you can see the interest we still are generating as an airline. I do realize that in other regions of the world, there is a shortage because people have got into the bad habit of working from home. And this has also given them the feel that it is now jobs are available where they can work from remote, so they don't need to go to an industry that really needs hands-on people. So I think this challenge will stay with the industry for some time to come. And let's see what happens in 12 months' time.
In Turkey, we are one of the rare companies in the whole aviation industry who didn't make any redundancies during this pandemic period. And the recovery started faster than we expected. There was a latent demand for the last 2 years, and this converted into a revenge purchase. So everybody is wanting to fly domestic and international. Because we have no redundancies during this 2 years period, we can able to recover back. Of course, there is some rustiness, not only on our side, but on the, especially security side and on the tower side, which we're going to overcome in a few weeks' time. And starting off the season with the 1st of July, there will be total recovery in the whole industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll come to this side of the room. This question midway.
Hello, Bruno Trevidic, Les Echos, France. I was wondering about this recovery. What level of visibility do you have for the winter season? Don't you fear that after this revenge travels, demand might drop?
Well, it's normal for demand to drop in the fourth quarter in the northern hemisphere. And the first quarter, they tend to be the lower demand periods. I think we've got to realize that we're still rebuilding. So in fact, the evidence that we have today suggests that we will still have a disconnect between supply and demand going into the fourth quarter and even potentially into the first quarter as airlines and airports rebuild for the strong recovery that we're seeing. So our outlook for this year takes all of that into account. And if you look at the figures where we have said that losses now are likely to be in the order of 9.7 billion versus the 12 billion that we had originally predicted. That's in the face of a massive increase in the price of oil. And as you know, fuel represents the single biggest cost on an airline basis. So despite having that huge increase in the oil price, we have still been able to reduce the forecast loss prediction for this year. And I think that reflects not just the very strong demand we're seeing at the moment, but the expected demand development as we go through the year. So we don't have any concerns based on everything we see at this stage around either the demand environment or indeed the supply environment as we start and as we continue to rebuild networks through the rest of this year and into next year.
Thank you. The question in the front.
English. My question to Willie Walsh is, how confident are you, building on your previous answer, about 2023 being the year when airlines will go into profit? And my question to Mr. Akbar about the 2050 vision for net zero emissions. How close are our airlines? Because every time fuel prices go up, we hear about sustainability and alternatives, but are we reaching closer to that goal of 2050 and net zero emissions?
Yeah, we remain confident about profitability in 2023. I think it's important to reflect on the fact that there are parts of the industry that are already profitable. My good friend here released results only earlier this week, last week, which showed a fantastic profitability for his airline for $1.5 billion. There are many other parts of the industry that have already returned to profitability. And we are seeing, as I said, that demand environment improving consistently across the world as the restrictions get relaxed. And indeed, there are parts of the world that have still a long way to go to recover, particularly in Asia. Now, our expectation in relation to China, we're being conservative about the reopening of China. I don't see it in any way creating a challenge for the industry this year because Asian carriers have plenty of scope to rebuild networks in other parts. China obviously is an important market for a lot of airlines, but everything we look at points to a positive outlook for the industry. We are going in the right direction. Airlines are doing well, rebuilding revenues, keeping costs under control. And as I said, even in the face of one of the most significant increases in the oil price, we were still able to predict a reduction in the losses in the current year and looking forward, returning to profitability at an industry level. There clearly will be parts of the industry that will continue to have some challenges, but I think you're looking at a very positive outlook for the industry as we go through this year into next year.
The 2050 target would be really very challenging to meet, but we have all focused on that date, and we hope that the airlines will be able to meet those targets, or some may come close to it. You cannot really guarantee what will happen because the issue is not only with the airlines, it is also with the suppliers. And as we've already mentioned earlier, that today I would like to contribute in a degree to that if I can buy SAF at a reasonable price that I can use in our airline, but it's not available. So if we can put all the targets we want and the dates to achieve those targets we want, but if there is no supply available, because we fly airplanes, we don't build engines, we don't produce fuel, so it is a collective effort to meet those targets. Yes, we want to do it. We want to do it even if we can do it earlier, and this is why Qatar Airways is continuously investing in new technology, new airplanes, keeping the fleet the youngest in the world, is to achieve as much as possible reduction in our CO2. Again, I think we as an airline, as the industry, we are not really promoting ourselves properly to the general public. We are the target of the global warming and, producing a lot of, greenhouse gases, etc., etc. But when you really look at the emission percentage, we are only just around 2.6%. People are forgetting that shipping is many, many times more than us. And there are more aeroplanes in the air than ships in the sea. So we need to really be very frank with the general public, that they need to know that we should not be the target. The whole world economy and the transportation network depends a lot on air services. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a question also in the front row.
My name is Kitty de Jong. I'm from the Daily Telegraph in the Netherlands. A question to, I think, Mr. Walsh. In the Netherlands, there are now plans to cut back the movements at Schiphol Airport due to all chaos, and they want now to permanently bring it down. Is the aviation industry through the chaos not a target for a hidden green agenda? Makes the sector itself not vulnerable?
Well, I think it is important to reflect on the difficulties that we've seen at Schiphol. I think it's interesting actually that three of the airports that I highlighted in terms of charge increases, Schiphol, Heathrow and Dublin, are three of the airports that have experienced the most disruption in recent weeks, which really does lead you to question the management teams at these airports. They're looking for massive increases at a time when they're not capable of delivering the basic product that they're due to deliver. So, I will continue to call out these airports to get their act in order. But it is better for the industry if we know the airport is unable to deliver the capacity that we know in advance so that we can adjust our schedules. And I don't think there's any hidden agenda there. I think it's just a case that Schiphol Airport has not been able to get its work together in time to meet the recovery. Very disappointing for us. I know very disappointing for KLM, who have suffered significant disruption as a result. But it is a case that this is just a mismatch between the levels, the manning levels at the airport and the demand that we're seeing. But I do find it, as I said, ironic that the three airports that are looking for massive increases, or in the case of Schiphol, granted a significant increase, and indeed Heathrow granted a significant increase, but looking for more. They're disappointing their customers at the basic level, not being able to produce a reliable manpower level to enable airlines to recover. And it is disappointing that it is suppressing the recovery in demand at these airports. But we'll work through this. And as I said, I think it's better for everybody if we know there's going to be a shortfall, that we know that in advance and we're able to adjust our schedules appropriately so that we minimize the disruption to customers.
We'll take that question here, and then we'll come over to that side of the room. So,
good morning, Gianni Garoni from Il Sole 24 Italy. I have seen no Russian airlines in the seat plan, so please would like to know did they Float and maybe others announced that they would not come, or are there any other reason to maybe do what Ayala said about what happened in Russia and Ukraine? And according to your plans, any of you can answer how do you forecast for how long will last the war?
All I can say is, I'm sure I speak for everybody when we hope that peace will be restored in Ukraine as soon as possible. I have no idea. We're not politicians, but I know everybody wants to see peace restored in Ukraine, and Ukraine able to rebuild from the damage that we've seen there. None of the Russian carriers have attended the AGM. We didn't ask them whether they were intending to attend. Carriers are invited. It's up to them whether they attend or not. But I assume that most of the carriers took the decision that, given the limitation on their ability to travel into and out of Russia, that's the principal reason why they're not here. But I know no more than that. We've not had any direct contact from any of them telling us why they decided not to attend.
Okay. Good morning. This is Schulz of FEW Germany. Mr. Akbar, how do you see the further development of the Qatar-EU Open Sky Treaty? And can it be seen as a master contract, as an example how successful this can work for other regions as well?
I cannot talk to you or respond to you about other regions. What I can say that we were the first country in our region to accept and sign a comprehensive air services agreement with the EU because we are very open, we are a very progressive country. We accepted, it was a long negotiation of nearly 4 years between us and the EU. And eventually, with the participation of all the EU carriers who were present during the talks, we managed to respond to all their concerns and finally succeeded in signing the comprehensive air services agreement. Of course, when you talk about comprehensive air services agreement with the EU, it doesn't mean that tomorrow I can fly all over Europe as many times as I want. It is over a period of nearly 5 years that will gradually increase frequencies and eventually achieve the open sky regime over a period of 5 years. And this is a win-win for both. Air services important for Europe, and it's also very important for us to connect the Hamad International Hub to the world.
We'll take a question in the back.
Hi, it's Zina Kamel from the national newspaper in Abu Dhabi. I have a question for Mr. Willie Walsh, please. I'm wondering how far you think the current travel rebound can survive in the face of factors like higher airfares, higher inflation, and also the weaker economic growth that's been predicted by the likes of the IMF and others. Can this still be sustained into this year and the next, and therefore into the profitability that you predict?
Yeah, great question. As we pointed out, predictions of GDP growth are in the order of 3.4%. When you talk to economists, it will vary around that sort of figure. That's still quite a significant level of GDP growth. When you look at the average growth that we would have witnessed in the 10 years between 2010 and 2019, which would have been less than that on average. So for our industry, GDP growth of 3.4% is actually quite good, that's strong. Inflation clearly is a challenge. I think some of the inflationary factors that we're seeing at the moment should be temporary, and hopefully we'll see the high levels of inflation that we're seeing reduce. So when we factor all of these into account, we still come to the conclusion that the industry outlook for this year, despite, as I said, a significant headwind from fuel prices, we are able to forecast a reduction in the losses. So the demand that we witness remains quite strong. In fact, I think in many cases the demand exceeds the available capacity, and that could be the case in some areas because of other restrictions. For example, as Robin pointed out, the issue of a potential pilot shortage in the US, if that the reality of a pilot shortage may well restrict some capacity growth available there. So there are a lot of moving parts. Not all of them are negative. as I said, downgrading GDP growth, but still at 3.4 is a healthy environment for our industry. So we remain optimistic based on everything we're seeing at the moment, and the industry will continue to make progress through this year and into next year.
Can I just add a couple of thoughts to that? I think that, because there's a lot of talk, as we had a question earlier about demand at the end of the year. There's still two things that we need to remember. First of all, there's still a lot of pent-up demand that can't travel this summer because there is just not enough capacity in the system. So we still have a lot of customers, for example, who have not flown since COVID but are ready to fly. They're saying they're willing to fly, but they just haven't done that yet. So that will continue, and that I think will provide a tailwind into 23. I think the other thing we have to remember is business travel is still ramping up. Business travel is coming back. We're seeing it, even in an environment where there may be some, concern about impact of recession. Business travel in Q4 this year is going to be a hell of a lot better than business travel in Q4 last year. So there's a significant amount of momentum still. So we're still in a time where we can be confident that there is good demand ahead of us.
But I also feel that there will be huge stress on the handling capacity of airports due to shortage of staff. And this could also restrict the growth. Yes, we have demand, we have capability to expand, but then there is no enough handling facilities available at the airports. If you really look at our departures out of airports in the US and in Europe, taking massive hits because of shortage of staff to handle our aircraft. This will be, I think, a very big challenge in the coming months. I hope that this will be resolved somehow.
Okay, thank you. Take a question in the back.
Hi, my name is Khaled Salahuddin. I'm from Conferencia newspaper in Egypt. Mr. Willie, in the past, access to an electronic tickets was a far-fetched dream, but it comes through and the paper ticket was dream. What are the new limitations that IATA seeks to achieve until 2030, especially in safety and security and facilitating travel procedures?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that question. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, I think the question is, what's on the horizon between now and 2030, similar to the way that paper tickets revolutionized the industry? What do we see?
That's what I thought you said. That's a great question. We are looking at quite a number of initiatives. Clearly, airlines are making a big push towards greater digital solutions for their customers, and at IATA we want to facilitate that. We're looking at the industry level of the cost of payments. It represents a significant cost for our industry. And as we see more and more airlines move to increasing levels of direct sales, the challenge switches from distribution costs to the cost of sales associated with these direct sales to the airline. So there are a number of initiatives that we're working on. I think the industry move to eliminate paper was a fantastic achievement because it was a win-win for everybody. Brilliant for our customers, made it much easier for customers to travel. Great for the industry because it took a lot of waste out of the industry. It streamlined processing of customers through airports, and it streamlined the accounting processes associated with that. So we are looking at several initiatives to assist the industry. We're also looking to make similar progress on the cargo side of the business as we have done on the passenger side. I think we have moved very fast to provide digital solutions for passengers. We're still lagging on the cargo side, and as cargo has become an even greater contributor to airline revenue, I think there's now the opportunity for airlines and IATA to invest more in trying to streamline processes on the cargo side to take advantage of some of the initiatives we've had on the passenger side.
Okay, thank you very much. The next session begins at 11:45. I make it at about 11:42 now. So that will be the last question, unfortunately. We do have a press conference at the conclusion of the AGM, also in this room. If you have questions about the economic outlook, Our chief economist will also be doing a briefing here at 1 o'clock this afternoon. And of course, over the next several days, or a day and a half, you're welcome to do some news gathering amongst the delegates. But thank you very, very much. Oh, sorry? Okay.
First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency Akbar for his sincere and warm hosting of AGM 78 in Qatar. So he deserves a big clap from us. And I would like to also thank to Mr. Robin Hayes, who took the job of chairperson of IATA in a very disturbing environment and be our chairperson for 19 months, which is a record for us. And he did this job successfully and tried to manage our industry in these turmoil days. So we would like to clap him also. And of course, the IATA management under the reign of Mr. Willie Walsh is a great help for us. So without you, dear journalist friends, our industry is having a missing part. So next year, the 79th of AGM will be in Istanbul. Looking forward to see you there as the host country airline and as the new chairperson of the IATA. Thank you.
Thank you very much.